Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Trying to figure out how to make my iPad be more user friendly. There we go.
We'll give it a couple more minutes, Anne, but you have a quorum now.
Who are we waiting for?
Just Deb, and I know she's coming.
Okay, well, let's just wait. We don't have a super long agenda. And we want everybody here.
All right. And this is, it is at your next meeting that the new board member will be, her term doesn't start till July 1.
Okay,
So
all right.
she is aware of this board meeting packet. I sent it to her last week, just so she'd know what's going on, but
Great.
she wasn't able to attend anyway.
Okay.
Here comes Deb. All right.
Good morning, everybody. I think I will call the meeting to order. Stephanie, would you call the roll, please?
Deb Rush,
She's here and she's muted.
Here.
Georgiana Schuster,
Here.
Kim Fisher,
Here.
Ann Robin,
Here. All right. Can I get approval of the agenda as presented?
I'm
I
gonna,
will make a motion to approve.
Don't all speak at once.
Oh,
Kim, I'll
if I'm
second.
muted. I can.
Kim,
Do you
you're
need a
muted.
second?
Kim Fisher, you're muted.
Oh, I
There
thought
you
I unmuted. This is Kim,
Okay.
I second.
Okay. Don't unmute yourself because we're gonna have to do a roll call. Unless you got barking dogs in your room.
Yeah, I've got a kind of noisy house, so.
Okay.
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Rush,
Yes.
Ann Robin.
Yes. Okay, thank you very much. The next item is citizen input, public participation. Is there anyone that wants to come forward? Okay, I don't hear anything. As per routine, if anyone comes in later, we will add you to the agenda. I don't really have any particular comments today, except thanks to everybody for the hard work that you did over the last couple of months. And again, thanks to the staff for putting out the materials that you put out. Most of today is information. There are a few decision items, and we will have a new board member next July. I did get reappointed to the board, so I will be with you for another, I think it's 2 years. Lynn, do you have comments?
yeah, I want to remind folks to sign into the chat unless you are a board member or a staff member of the DD board. Also in the chat, I'm putting the link to this board packet. Now that, you know, enough people are here that they can see it, if anybody wants it. And I'm in the Shields Carter Room at Brookins in order to maintain compliance with the revisions to the Open Meetings Act under the governor's executive order, which continues to be extended due to high COVID risk. This board meeting is kind of different from all the board meetings you've had since January, because the focus for the whole spring tends to be on what agency contracts you will be funding starting July 1. And I just want to say thank you for doing all of that along that timeline that is actually kind of ambitious, given what you're looking at and how much money is involved. You did it. I much appreciate it, because this year we thought, oh, June is going to be so easy. We're going to save so much time because we're using signable electronic documents. We're using Adobe Sign, which, validates the electronic signatures for the first time ever. Well, it's still just as complicated as it always is. So we're almost done with June, and we have very few contracts fully executed and ready to make payments on. So it's just like every other year. So my ambition of like, oh, we might be able to get a little more breathing room for the decision time. Not yet. We'll see, things will smooth out, I'm sure, next year, but I think for now, we'll probably stick to the same kind of pattern. The timeline process, which is in the back of your board packet, or toward the back of the board packet, describes that process. So we didn't adjust any of the timeframes. So next year during the application season, it will again be a whole lot of work and thought for you about the agency contracts. But I'm thinking in July, I want to start showing you some ideas that we have for maybe improving the application system itself, so that at least on the agency end, things are a little bit more straightforward. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, this packet is substantially different from the business that y'all have been engaged in. This is much more about the things that we do that are not under agency contracts. Quite a few of them are supports which are supposed to help the agencies. I appreciate feedback from the agencies about whether these things actually are helpful. And then there are supports for us just getting our work done. And then the budget, of course. And I start working on the budget process like annoyingly early. It's annoying to everybody else in the county because they're not ready to do it until July. But in order for us to make decisions about funding for agencies and to spend as much money as possible on those agency contracts, we start our budget process in March. So some of this stuff I've just been waiting to show you for, since then. So I appreciate, sorry, I'm rambling. I will stop and let you get on with the business. But I also turning over a new leaf in life and wrote like the first only positive staff report that I ever have. Usually there's a mix of bad news, but it's only good news this time. So let's see how long that lasts. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. And I think I speak for everyone when I say we know there's a lot of work that goes on in the background in order to make all these things happen. And I also very much appreciate the effort toward transparency that you have done during your tenure as executive director to help us understand what the background is. So thank you for that. Okay, approval of the board meeting minutes from last month.
I'll move to approve as presented.
And I will second. This is Georgiana. I will second.
Okay. Are there any comments or corrections on the minutes as presented? Okay, can we go to a roll call?
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Rush,
Yes.
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Ann Robin,
Yes. All right, vendor invoice list, which is very short this time. We have it's a decision item, so motion to approve.
This is Deb. I'll move again to approve as presented.
This is Kim, I'll
And-
second.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, roll call.
Deb Rush,
yes,
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes,
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
and Robin.
Yes. All right, new business. Pages 10 to 14, very substantive. And we might want to have some discussion about this. Lynn and I discussed it a little bit yesterday. It's presented as a decision memorandum. And the purpose of this decision memorandum is basically to lay out some options and allow the staff to move forward with looking at these options. Lynn, am I correct on that?
Yeah, this is, this is what I was asking for when I wrote it, just, a green light to move on with writing something up. You still wouldn't have to do anything about it, but it would be like maybe a priorities memo that is shared with the mental health board for what to do with this fund if you want to spend it on other agency contracts with a much more narrow scope than either the contracts currently funded by the DDB or the mental health board. And the narrowness of the scope would be, in my mind, to stick to the original purpose of the fund if we can. So that said, this is not the only thing you could choose to do with this fund. There are lots of other options. I just haven't really heard a lot of other ideas. These are the things that people have been talking about, but you don't have to do anything right now either. You could say, no, we're just gonna leave the fund alone. We don't even know exactly how much is in fund balance quite yet because we're waiting to reconcile one other account, and then we need to give our accountant and the auditor's office a little time to reconcile the information once they have it, to know exactly how much is in the account. I believe there will be about $780,000 there, and I don't think we want to keep it in a fund forever, especially when there are needs that could be met. So my thought, and I heard somewhere else, a best practice was 2.5 years to spend down your fund balance. And based on that, I thought use 300,000 the first year, 300,000 the next year, and then the remaining, if it's 180 or if I'm off by something, whatever remains in the third year, and then close the fund. But you could do other things. A long time ago, when you all met here together in July with the mental health board, some were saying, what if we just held on to the money and bought houses some other time, or did this again some other time? You could certainly do that. If you feel that it's too soon to choose any direction, you could just defer. But I thought these were, we also don't know if anyone would apply to do this work. Because we are experiencing this workforce shortage and limited provider capacity. So even if we say these are the things we'd like to fund, it doesn't mean anybody wants to do this for us. So it's not a waste of my time to develop an application, the priorities document, an allocation timeline, and the application process, and review any applications, only to find that no one wants to do this. That's okay. We would at least be trying. So anyway, I don't know if you have any other questions. That's just what I was thinking.
Okay, are there questions from board members?
This is just a comment. It's not really a question, but I think when the money was originally allocated for the 2 CELA houses, it was because we had a need. We have a need to provide housing, supportive housing. And I would like to see the money continue to be used for that particular need and not to be divvied out for other needs. And maybe that's what we're talking about here. I just wanted to make my views known that this CELA money had a particular purpose, and I would like to keep that purpose there. Our use of the money for the same reason, whether it's to provide supportive housing in some way. that's basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you for that comment. Any other comments or questions?
I was just, at this point, to just move to authorize the executive director and staff to develop a timeline and allocation criteria and funding priorities related to each of the support needs identified in this memo for consideration and approval by each board.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
This is Kim, I'll second.
Okay. Further discussion?
So this is Kim, I have just a question for Lynn, I guess, and the other board members. So these, as I was reading through the priorities, these are aligned with our overall priorities, correct? Do we have a sense of, from the people that we're serving, that this is, one of these areas is more of a priority, or one that's not listed, which Georgiana mentioned, providing supportive housing, although I think we talked about this in the memo, but, do we have a sense of what they want, rather than, so that we're kind of responding to what their needs are? Or is that reflected in your understanding of their wants, is reflected in this memo?
So I might ask for Kim Boudry to give some input, and I don't know if anyone from the IFC is, oh yeah, Angela Yost is here. They might be a little more close up to what people who aren't getting any services want right now. But yeah, this is, these recommendations are a product of discussions so far, which do include a little bit of input from families and people, but I don't think, so I don't know, Kim, do you have, or Angela, do you have an idea? Are we reflecting what people are looking for? As to the housing and what Georgiana has suggested, if we hold this to the original purpose, the way to do that is do nothing for a while, because the conditions do not exist for expanding SILA capacity right now. If we want to go back into that business, we have to wait anyway. And we could just, see that as a good opportunity to figure out exactly how much money we have,
There's definitely a need and a want for SILA placement in this area. There's definitely the demand here, and there's just not enough. There's just not enough spots in this area currently. So that need is definitely there.
And I would say there's also a need for independent housing as well, which this wouldn't necessarily fall into that, but based on information from the PUNs as well as the preference assessment, people also want to live alone. So people need, there's a very great need for SILA, but I think that's partly because that's only the only option that is really available, even though it's not available here. The state doesn't really have a great mechanism for less than 24-hour supports for people who live independently.
This is Deb, right? And so considering all of those parameters and limitations, I like all of the ideas that are presented in this memo, because I don't see SILA looming for us on the horizon, and using that money to support people in whatever way they're asking us to do, or they prefer for us to do in the meantime while they is better than doing nothing. And I would hope that in the future, should the SILA out change, we might have a mechanism for restarting the process again in some manner, to down the road look at that again. I just hate to see money that we could use to help people individually, or to help promote DSP retention, or as a way to put the money to use in the meantime.
Can I just ask a follow-up question just to clarify? So would we be putting out a call for all three of these priorities, or are we focusing on one? So that agencies could apply for any of these options?
That's a great question.
Oh.
So, we haven't really developed a priorities memo. We don't do a lot of RFPs. One of these might be especially appropriate for an RFP. And that is the one that's real similar to mini grant process. Like that is, we did that ourselves. So we know exactly what's hard about it and what works about it. So we could get really specific with that one, or we could just, in a priorities memo, we could kind of do this like we do normally, but in a priorities memo, provide that specificity. The other two categories, I think the DSP workforce is on everyone's mind. I think the new contract that you're funding with DSC covers it in kind of in the way that we would want to approach it. So we might be modeling something after them, or seeking an expansion of that. So I was just thinking we do it the way we know how to do things, because that's how we know how to do things. That might not be perfect. Maybe we should do just one priority and do it as an RFP. That would be different. Obviously, we've done an RFP before because of the SILA process, but it requires a number of joint meetings between the two boards. And so, that it's a little bit of a heavier load for you all in the beginning, but then it's smoother on the other end. So
Thanks, Lynn.
So just again, for clarification, Lynn, what you're really asking is just for the board to approve you to begin this process. And it isn't a final product by any means.
and I didn't put in there like by what date.
Right, you didn't put by what date. So we're beginning the process, and you would come back to the board with
Right.
more information, and we would discuss it and decide what
Yeah.
we wanted to do. So we're not really approving to use $300,000 for X right now. What we're approving is for Lynn and the staff to, using these parameters, start thinking about it in creative and possible ways.
Like, yes, yeah, I think so. Maybe a more detail from us. And honestly, like you all know, because you've been on this journey too, this whole thing since 2014, the SILA project has felt like urgent, like we had to do something urgently, but then also the complications make us slow down. So sometimes when I start working on the details, I think, oh my gosh, we gotta hurry up and get this happening now. Kind of, like in respect to what Deb Rush just said, there are people really struggling right now. So get my butt in gear and take care of this. But then, we also are familiar with problems that are caused by going too fast. So I'm really just seeking, like, kind of taking your temperature about should we go in this direction now? And then we'll ask the mental health board the same question this evening. If they are aligned with you, then, I either do or I don't, or I do this, or I come back with some other idea, or I do nothing for a while. And those are the options.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. I'm trying to find where it is in my packet. Is
It's
it
on page 12. I can show
page
it.
12? That's
Yeah.
okay. I can find it.
Okay.
There it is. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Is there any more discussion? Okay, Stephanie, would you do roll call, please?
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Rush,
Yes.
Ann Robin.
Yes, okay, thank you. All right, the next item is also aspirational. Well, actually, the next item, I was looking for the budget, which is aspirational. But the next item is the Regional Community Health Plan Coordinator. And I think some explanation about what this is. This was kind of hard for me to read, quite honestly. And I think there were some questions. Georgiana had some questions about what this is and why we're doing this. Lynn, you had an answer yesterday in an email that I thought was very helpful. So maybe you want to make just a few comments and explain what this position is and why it's helpful and why you're asking for this support.
So I think my answer in email was probably pretty rambling, but I'll try.
It was actually very good.
Was it? Okay.
Yes.
So essentially, there are a whole bunch of entities who are required to do a strategic plan every 3 years. And before they do the strategic plan, they're required to do a community health needs assessment. That is known as the I plan. So the entities are, and this is something I tried to summarize it here, but it's in my staff report sometimes, in my, not this week's staff report, but basically it's OSF in Champaign and Danville, Carl in Champaign and Danville, the Public Health District in Champaign and Danville, United Way in Champaign and Danville, the Vermilion County Mental Health Board, and us. And there might be somebody else in there, but I think those are the major partners. We have not paid anything for, everybody else has paid into this just to pay for a coordinator who would have, she was organizing all these focus groups and assessment activities and then creating the drafts of the community needs assessment report and then the I plan itself. We have never simply put our name on that and said that satisfies our obligation to do a 3-year plan and a needs assessment. We have relied on it heavily for information. And we also, last year in 2021 at this time, we actually relied on the coordinator herself to help us with specific needs assessment activities for our own report. And what we learned from, the most important thing I learned from that is that this health plan needs more representation from people with disabilities. So they need the information that we were getting kind of over on the side in their, their own community health needs assessment, which I have a draft on my desk to read, but it's 175 pages and I have been working on other stuff this week. Budgets are due to the county. That's the main activity. So anyway, we had this group meets every other month, the people representing those entities who all have this obligation. We all used to do separate strategic plans and separate needs assessments. I'm still not convinced that we should share just one with all of them. I think our work turns out to have a lot more value to them than they may have ever realized. We had a public hearing a month ago during which I didn't say it, but when it started to be said, I didn't stop it either. Members of the public were saying that these people need better representation in the health plan. So we're in a moment where, like, whether we share in the cost of the paid coordinator, I've really enjoyed this collaboration. We could step out of this collaboration too. If you all don't want to spend this money or invest in this project, we could totally step back from it. I never know, if like my advocacy efforts are really landing. I feel like I need to make them, but that doesn't mean they're successful. So this is just, the coordinator that we had left, she got a better job. The salary was quite low. So the group composed a new job description, which is attached here. And, their goal is to pay a little bit better for this. And so it would be a good time for us to contribute like the others do. But it's, again, like every little cost, like if you don't want to do it, it is entirely up to these boards. So the question will be asked of the DD board and the mental health board today.
So Lynn.
Yeah.
Just to follow up. you have been involved in this for quite some time. And as the executive director, you have both contributed to information to this group and received help from this group. Am I correct? So it's been a useful thing, and it's related to planning and evaluation and things that could be called bureaucratic,
Definitely.
but are absolutely required, because we live in a system where these things are required and you can't get out of doing these. So what this is a collaborative effort between agencies and entities to do these evaluations and plans. And you have a seat at the table. This is having a seat at the table and representing developmental disabilities. So the reason for us to participate in this is that we have a seat at the table representing people with developmental disabilities, and also speaking up for their needs, and also getting information that is useful. So it's not something that was really on the front burner for people in this board to understand. So for us to make a decision to participate or not participate, we need to have the background, understand why is this useful, because we haven't been doing this. Something called iPlan sounds like something for the highway system. It doesn't sound like something for us. But that's the information that was, I thought you did a good job in your email of explaining. And
well, I
so that-
apologize.
yeah.
This has been in my staff report. Like every time I present a staff report, this collaboration is in there. So I thought,
I'm sure it is. And
It's
I'm
just
sure we look at it and
short
go,
paragraph.
oh, I plan, blah, blah, blah,
Right. But it's also like, I think it's fair for the board to say, what is the value to us and to the people we're supposed to be serving? Because this is a question that I'm always asking, like the health plan for this county does not say a word about people with developmental disabilities. Nothing. The health needs plan doesn't even have any questions related to it. So whether I'm having any impact of getting them to look at what we find, I think that's a good question, and maybe that's the do or die question, because some of them honestly just do it because they're mandated to do it. They have to check it off the list. They put about that much heart and soul into it too. And so there is a chance this is a waste of time. Anyway, sorry.
Well, that's where this board really needs your guidance, because you have been involved in doing it and we have not. So it's disturbing that these plans don't have developmental disabilities even mentioned. That should be at least mentioned, that this population exists and needs services. And that would be the advocacy that we would need to do. Is this an opportunity for this advocacy? Is it useful? Is it worth us putting $28,000 into, or what are we being asked to put into it?
$2,700 a year for.
Okay, $2,700 a year.
Well, Deb was going to say something.
Well, it's
Okay,
just
Deb.
the same question that Ann just asked. What's your sense of it being a worthwhile investment? Do you think that throwing money at this is going to yield heads up from these anywhere?
I don't know, Deb. You know me, and you know that I'll beat a dead horse for a long time, right? Just because I have this ambition doesn't mean it's working. So I have felt like it was like a miracle to be sitting in that public hearing and hear people say what I want to say.
Well,
But
there's that.
I mean, I did not do that. I did not plant them. I didn't even invite those people to the meeting. So it's just like, oh, good. This is like people have learned something through this difficult public health emergency. They've learned something about folks who are not taken into primary consideration in our healthcare systems. So maybe there will be a change, but we could. I don't know. I felt good based on that, but these are tough partners, and some of them are putting in a lot more money than we are, and maybe feel that their say is, should carry more weight. the author of the survey, the needs assessment survey itself, is a physician who's done it for 1,000,000 years and will always see health as, you know, the outcome of individual behaviors. And that's something we're kind of fighting against now. Like, well, haven't we just learned that health outcomes have a lot to do with social circumstances,
Right.
where you live, and with having a disability? So I see an opportunity, but if you all think that it's not there, I will understand.
Was there a response from the people involved in the committee that to the concern that the audience had and the questions that they posed to you and the interest that they posed? Did anybody notice? Is there an opportunity to take what you heard from the public and present that to them in a way that will make them aware?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. The public health people liked it a lot because that's right where they are, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But the hospitals really have a hard time with making a change because they're institutions.
Right.
So I don't know. And I honestly, like, thank you for this discussion. I'm sure nobody was expecting a big discussion about this. There is a question that other mental health boards in the state of Illinois, there aren't a lot of DD boards, so I haven't heard DD boards talking about this, but I've heard mental health boards talking about this, just suspicion about any partnership with hospitals.
Mhm.
So there's that. But what I see, like, I like this structure as an example of lots of units of government being cost effective, like sharing the cost of a person who's going to get some work done that they all have to do instead of doing it separately. But it still might not get the result that we want.
So just one more comment. Is this sort of an anti-silo organization? Because we talk about everybody working in silos. This looked to me like an opportunity for people to at least sit around a table and look at each other, or on Zoom, look at each other and consider each other's opinions.
I think so. So, you know, like I did mention in the memo, and you mentioned it too, that we got help directly from the coordinator at no cost. So that has value. You know, if we can access the coordinator for some expert support on focus groups and survey structure, that means a lot to me. But the other thing that you're right, this is that kind of like anti-silo thing. At this table, real early on in my collaboration with them, this is where we started to learn about mental health first training and its value in the farming communities. And, you know, I could, like Chandra would take that on all by herself, but I learned at that table that many of these partners were already doing it. So they just needed to coordinate with her. So it was, that's been whatever, I don't know, Chandra, like 3 or 4 years ago, but that was one really good thing that happened from that probably saved us a lot of money and helped Chandra get that done. That just to be connected with people who were already planning to do it in the farming communities. And that is more relevant than ever now, because those diseases of despair have only increased in prevalence in our rural areas. So anyway.
Okay, so I am sorry, this has been a very good discussion, but I am confused. Do we have a motion on the table? Did somebody move? Or are we just discussing it before we have a motion?
There is no motion yet.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I guess I'll move to approve continued participation for 3 years in the Regional Executive Committee for Community Health Needs Assessment, and to contribute $5,000 annually for 3 years for the shared coordinate services pending approval by the CCMHB.
And I will second that motion. This is Georgiana.
Okay,
Do
is
you
there
want
any
to-
more discussion?
You know what? Do you want to, should we put you won't be contributing 5,000. This is.
We will not. We
Right.
will be contributing half of that.
I should do, well, no, it's not even
So
half.
can we
41.
amend it to say pending by the CCMHB and following the guidelines of the intergovernmental agreement as to
Yeah.
cost?
Or you could amend it. This is the actual annual cost to the DDB, $2,107.50. I misstated before. It's 2107.50.
Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
read that again? Also, you know, the one question I have is that, do we have to sign on for 3 years? Can we put something in that motion that we're gonna, it's gonna be a little bit on a trial basis, or do we have to commit for 3 years?
It's the memorandum of understanding is for 3 years.
Okay,
So it's, I could
Okay,
ask them
right,
that, but
yep.
okay.
Good question. And the answer is yes, you have to do it for 3 years.
right, okay.
Okay, so shall we amend the decision? Deb, do you want to read it again?
Sure, read it again. Motion to approve continued participation for 3 years in the Regional Executive Committee for Community Health Needs Assessment and to contribute $2,107.50 annually for 3 years for the shared coordinator service pending approval by the CCMHB.
And I will second that. This is Georgiana.
Okay, now is there any more discussion? Okay, Stephanie, would you do the roll call, please?
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Rush,
Yes,
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Ann Robin,
Yes. Well, I think that this discussion is very interesting, and we will continue these discussions. The next item is aspirational, the draft fiscal year budgets, pages 22 to 37. The decision memorandum is on
It's page 23.
page 23. Okay. And the purpose of the approval for this is stated in here, but I just wanted to make it very clear. This is the purpose of this approval by the board is to allow the staff to do planning. It's not saying this is going to be our budget. This is how we're going to use the money. This is somewhat aspirational and it could be revised. And in my conversation with Lynn yesterday, she said this could be it, but
Right.
it could not be it. And she doesn't have all the information. And just as a point of information for this board, Lynn is doing this work without having the exact numbers, even though she puts exact numbers into it. She's doing this work so that they can move forward. So that's what this is for. Does that make sense?
I would add, it's aspirational only in the sense that it would be great if these were the final numbers and this was, if you approve this budget, if this was the budget, that'd be great. Because it would mean a lot less time, on my part and your part, later in the summer. So what happens each year is we don't have details on some of the costs that the county will be providing to us in July. We don't have the revenue projections tend to change every few months. So if there's more money, we want to budget to receive and spend. Like if there's more money available, we want to, what we always do is just increase the contributions and grants, which is the agency allocation line. So those are the two things that are probably going to change, but I am asking for approval of these as budgets so that when I go talk to the county, you have already asserted your authority to make a budget. Just
Okay, that
yeah.
helps a lot, Lynn. Thank you. Okay, I'm open for a motion.
This is Kim. Do I just read the motion?
Yes.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the attached draft 2023 CCDDB budget with anticipated revenues and expenditures of $4,760. Oh, wait, no, sorry, $4,760,101.
Yeah. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Deb.
Okay, now is there discussion?
A question, Lynn, what do we budget for legal counsel specifically? couldn't find that in there.
It's lumped in with professional services. We also, for the most part, in the last couple of years, the only legal support we've gotten is related to the CILA. So that gets charged to the CILA fund. But
Okay,
we're done with that. So, you know, routinely there might be legal issues like like when I asked him for context, like things we could do for well, no, that was charged to the CILA too.
The closed minutes, did we get counsel for that?
Yeah, that's, you all, the DD board has a statutory, it's not an authority, it's like you have the right to have representation by the state's attorney's office at no cost. The mental health board does not have that right. So a lot of times I have meetings with state's attorney's office and Dan Walsh. And if it's a search for something like that affects both boards, we would have Dan do it. So to answer Deb's question, it's lumped in with professional services. There have been years where we used zero. But in recent years, I'm not comfortable not asking questions that I don't know the answers to that could get you sued. So I do ask him sometimes, if we should pull out and create an estimated amount, I could probably do that, but it'd probably be based on last year.
I was just curious.
Yeah. We have the ability to look these things up by line and by vendor. And also, there could be reason for us to use a different attorney, like some things that come up might be uncomfortable or a conflict for Dan Walsh because of his relationship to the county, but he does represent us and not the county. So anyway.
Okay, any further questions or comments about this motion? All right, Stephanie, you want to do a roll call, please?
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Ruch,
Yes,
Ann Robin.
Yes. Okay, the next item is the draft 2023 SILA fund budget. Would someone like to make that motion?
This is Kim. I'll make a motion to approve the attached draft 2023 SILA fund budget with anticipated revenues and expenditures of $350,100. Use of this fund is consistent with the terms of the intergovernmental agreement between the CCDDB and CCMHB, and full approval is contingent on CCMHB action.
Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Deb.
Okay. We've already discussed this some. Is there more discussion at this time?
No.
Okay, Stephanie, would you do roll call, please?
Kim Fisher,
Yes.
Deb Ruch,
Yes,
Georgiana Schuster,
Yes.
Ann Robin.
Yes. All right. Well, I think that is the end of our decision requirements for this meeting. So I want to thank everybody for their participation in that. We are ready for successes and other agency information. And Lynn, would you like to recognize somebody?
I see you have some hands raised. It's Mel from PACE and also Annette from DSC. Someone did come into the room, but I don't think they were looking for our meeting. Also, Becca from Community Choices has raised her hand.
Okay, well, let's let Mel go first this time.
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Hi.
Hi. So I just wanted to share with everyone that we have another success at PACE and stuff. So there's the consumer that was on and off looking at our registry, and we got a report just recently that she has found another PSW on the registry. So that was really exciting because as you know, the shortage of DSP or PSW in our area. many of the consumer tend to like on and off kind of look through the registry. And we continue to do orientation, whether it's online or in person. I try to offer once or twice a month those orientations to continue to actively recruit the PSW. And the second thing that I wanted to share with everyone is I attended just recently an event at Carl in the Field and was actively recruiting PSW in that event. So I was kind of happy. It was an outdoor event and was able to have a booth with PACE, and there's a lot of people that attended that stopped in our booth and was looking forward to sharing our program. So other than that, those are the couple of things that I wanted to share. A good success story of matching one and being able to be out there to actively recruit PSW. Thank you for the time.
Okay, thank you. And who wants to go next?
I'll go ahead and go. This is Annette, and this is actually about Employment First, which is the collaboration between Community Choices and DSC, and it's geared toward outreach to the business community. We're really excited, and actually Becca and I and Maggie Baker and Ashley Withers are meeting right after this meeting to finalize all of the details for the launch of the employer directory, which we hope to connect businesses who are interested in making their employment and hiring practices for people with disabilities a more friendly process. Some people with disabilities don't care to disclose, but they really would like to work for a company who is making every effort to be more disability friendly. So there's a lot of media outreach coming up. We've got the WCIA morning show on the 24th. We have WEFT. We're going to be on the Disability Beat on the 27th. And then July 3rd, Focus, which is an Illini radio group segment, and then finishing off with CI Living on WCIA in July. And I'll put those in the chat for everybody, but we're really excited, and we've gotten a lot of good response so far.
Sounds almost mainstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, Becca?
Yeah, so I'll ditto what Annette says. We're really excited about that. Thank you for giving it a nice introduction, and we'll have more information to come. I actually just wanted to kind of just sort of respond to and let you guys know. So we've been working with Emily Blevins through our collaboration, or your collaboration, with the university's evaluation team through the Department of Psychology, I believe. Anyway, we've been working with her for the last year. We have a couple weeks left. We've been kind of one of the targeted partners, specifically working with our community living, now called Inclusive Community Support Department. And I just wanted to basically sing her praises and just say how incredibly helpful she has been, and how incredibly helpful it has been, you know, to the kind of sort of revamping of that department for us. Not only has she kind of helped us sort of really identify, you know, the outcomes that we think are most important and develop the tools to assess those, but also to just like make sure everything that we're able to collect the data and make sure that like the process for doing that is like it's practical for staff, and that they have the time, and that it's not overly complicated and just really streamlined. And obviously this is something we could, you know, keep working on, you know, forever and still continue to grow. But I just have been really blown away with how helpful and how just, you know, really useful that has been. And I know that we don't always talk about it in these meetings, and I just wanted to take a minute to let you all know how valuable that kind of investment that you all have made has been.
Thank you.
And shout out to her. She's wonderful. So whoever kind of works with her in the future is very lucky.
Thank you very much for that. Is there anyone else?
And can I say something? This is
Of
Chandra.
course.
I know it's probably in my staff report, but I wanted to just acknowledge Community Choices that is going to be doing training for us. And the first one is on June 30th for the case managers on just how to work with people that are living with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And so I just wanted to make sure that I announced that and to say thank you to Hannah and Becca for coordinating the self-advocates to do the training. And it will also serve as one of the required trainings for CLC for the year.
That sounds like a win-win.
It's a win all the way around.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is Hannah. Thanks for mentioning that, Chandra. The group's really excited, and thank you for taking the time to meet with them and talk about that training and giving them some feedback on how they can improve. Kind of along those lines, we have some self-advocates who are really, really excited about growing their skills. And so getting them involved with community opportunities to do that has been really, really great. For example, just to kind of give you an idea of like what types of opportunities. So one of our self-advocates is participating in a non-credit writing course through the Odyssey project that the U of I has this summer. And so it's happening at, it's an 8-week course, and it's happening at the Douglas Community Center. And it was open to anybody 18 and older who, there's a couple of different qualifications for it. But so one of our self-advocate participants is, or group participants is doing that course and has already talked about just how it is opening up a new way for them to be able to advocate for themselves through writing. And they're just going over, basically she was explaining to me, they're going over a variety of ways to express yourself, like everything from poetry to nonfiction writing. So that's really cool. And it's great to see people involved. And sorry, I have one more quick thing, because it's Pride Month. And so I thought this was a good time to, announce this. So Community Choices is partnering with the Alliance, which is the statewide self-advocacy network, to work on an Illinois Council on Developmental Disabilities funded program over the next 4 years. And we're going to be creating online support groups for LGBTQ folks who also are autistic or who also are neurodiverse or have an intellectual disability. So there's going to be a couple of different groups, but they're going to be planned and facilitated by people with lived experience. So whether that's someone who is LGBTQ, who is neurodiverse, or who has an intellectual disability, but we wrote it into the grant that it needs to be run and planned by people who are the experts with lived experience. So that would be another thing that I'm really happy to just kind of help coordinate and kind of gather this stuff. But it will be some of our self-advocates, and then we'll be partnering with Uniting Pride and the Phoenix Center in Springfield, a couple places in Chicago. The idea is to have start here with online support groups, because for those of you who don't know, I'm also involved with Uniting Pride. And so through that position and through Community Choices, there's been some different requests over the years for some sort of group or resources, and just there's more needed for folks who are autistic and are LGBTQ, or who have an intellectual disability and are LGBTQ. And it seems like in most smaller city areas, it's hard to find enough people to create a sustainable, ongoing in-person group. And so building that now through Zoom, which, we all know how to use Zoom now, it seems to be the next best thing. So starting in what we're kind of calling, East Central Illinois, and then creating some other groups, or helping other people set up groups in other areas of the state as well after that. So it'll be honestly, probably the earliest time the group will actually meet will be January of 2023. But right now we're starting to hire those self-advocates to plan and facilitate the group. So
Great.
yeah,
Thank
very
you.
excited about it. Thank you.
Well, that was a very good successes and other agency information. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? Okay, I'm going to move on to old business. Do we want to talk about the Disability Resource Expo update? Any questions about that or comments about that?
Could I say something brief about that?
Absolutely.
I know that we recently learned that there is a conflict with an Illinois football game on the planned date. So there is, they're looking at possibly doing another weekend in October. And then there could be another potential conflict with the, I believe they call it draping, the backdrops. So I'm sure we'll bring you another update in the very near future about the happenings of the Disability Expo.
Yeah, I happen to know that that weekend is U of I homecoming.
Yeah, not just a football game.
Yeah,
even
it's
bigger
homecoming.
than a football game,
Yeah.
homecoming. Thank you for that.
There's a lot of things going on that weekend. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Time schedules, any comments? Do we have CCMHB input? They're having a meeting today.
Yeah, they have, at their meeting tonight, they have similar information to yours and similar decisions, obviously around shared investments, but they have board officer elections. Like we were having their board officer elections in January, and then I think I read the statute more carefully and discovered they need to do it anytime between January and July in order to start their officers' terms on July 1st, the same way yours do, but you are required to have the elections in July. So that's the only difference. That's the only thing they have to do tonight that's different from what you've seen today. But then you'll be on the same schedule with the presidents.
Okay, I guess I have one more comment about schedule. For the board information, it is required in Lynn's contract to do an evaluation for her every 2 years. In the intergovernmental agreement, it says annually, but in Lynn's contract, it says every 2 years. And 2 years ago, it seems like last month, but 2 years ago, Joe Omasagi and I got together and did that evaluation for Lynn. And I'm going to try to get together with him before the end of this month to complete the evaluation for Lynn, so that will be done before July 1st, and that will not be put on the new board, CCMHB board president, because Joe is going to be going off as CCMHB board president. And I'm willing to continue as president in July, but you all will have to decide whether you want me to continue or whether somebody else on the board would like to take that over, which would be fine. So I'm just letting you know that that's going to be happening. There is room in the documentation for another person to be involved in that process. So if any of you would like to be involved, or if you have comments that you would like to share with me, please either call me on my cell phone or send me an email individually, not as a group, but individually, and I will incorporate those, or if you want to be included, you can be included. And that should be ASAP, because I'm going to try to get it done in the next 10 days, or however many days we have, 8 days. Okay, staff reports. Thank you for your staff reports. Any comments about staff reports? There's a lot in them.
Just thank you to the staff for putting them together.
I'll second that. Yes, they were really interesting, good reports. Thank you.
And board announcements, any announcements? We are going to have a
This is
new
Kim. I
board
have a-
member in July. Kim, did you have an announcement?
Yeah, sorry. It is annoying to have to turn my mic off and not, because sometimes the screen goes bigger and close, so I can't find the mute button, but just a couple announcements. So I didn't get a chance to say in the Disability Expo, I wanted to mention that the name change, disability is all capitalized. So thank you for doing that. And then two things, the NIDLR, the National Institute on Disability and Independent Living and Rehab Research, they do an annual study called the National Survey on Health and Disability for people with all kinds of disabilities. And I just want to let folks know that it's open. I'll send the information to Lynn. It's for anybody 18 to 64 who is living with a disability to kind of share about their health, their quality of life, how they've managed through COVID. So it's a really important national study for people with disabilities. There's not a lot of people with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities who participate in this study. So I thought this was a good resource or a good place to share this information. And then the other piece is the Institute on Community Integration, which I know we've used some of their work in our call, and they're doing another follow-up study with DSPs about their experiences throughout COVID and now with their workforce, with the work that they're doing. So that survey is open just to better understand DSP's experiences now, so that their work has been critical in pushing changes or trying to push changes for DSPs. So I'll share both of those links with Lynn, and then if anybody's interested, they can contact me for more information.
Thank you. Any other interesting or valuable announcements? All right, I guess if there isn't anything, people have a chance to unmute themselves and say something, we will stand adjourned, and thank you to everybody for your time and attention.